All right. Hey, everybody. This is Penny. We've got Bob and Nick today from Cornerstone, and welcome. We're going to talk about timelines in the trucking industry and getting started. And we've got a lot of questions for Nick today. And if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box in the Facebook group, and we'll try to get through every single one. So be sure to do that. But we've been, I saw on the Facebook group where people were asking, are people still applying for authority? And it's like, yeah, they are. A few weeks ago, we did 8 authorities in 1 week. And that was a lot for us. Sometimes we don't do that many. But people are starting to, want to, now I think is the time to get in. Get your application in, because maybe in a month when all this kind of hopefully dies down, then you've got the edge, because you're starting now. There's a certain timeline, usually 3 weeks to get things going. And so that's what we want to talk with Nick about with Cornerstone Insurance, because we have to time all this just right. So you're not wasting money, you're not wasting time. There's still a government timeline. We can't. We have to have that. It's just there. But that's one thing we wanted to talk about today. And I know when you start your authority, some people still don't know that there's a 3-week timeline here. You can't get started any earlier than that. If anybody else tells you otherwise, they're not right.
There's a couple of advertisers that you could, if you Google start my own authority, you'll see get your authority in 24 hours. That's a bunch of hooey-dooey. They might file it in that 24 hours, but you ain't running in 24 hours.
Yeah, you're not.
There's a whole lot of other things that go into an authority. Penny's the expert on setting up those authorities. In fact, she posted a poll there for those of you that might not have seen it, on those that might want to be trained on starting your own compliance or authority agency, if you will. I do the safety compliance, and each piece of this paperwork part of the industry has its own place. Penny's timelines are going to be, getting everything posted up to the insurance in essence. The insurance is going to be a key component. It is one of the most important pieces you'll need, and Nick will speak on that in a minute. But I want to talk about the other pieces that are in the middle. Okay, so everybody gets a good vision. Everybody talks about this 21-day timeline. You're not going to operate before 21 days typically. That's not going to happen. So don't plan on having your first load out, 3 days after you've filed your authority through Penny or through the FMCSA directly or whatever. Even if you went out and bound your insurance tomorrow, you're not going to be up and running in a immediate timeline.
Right.
What happens is you have different states have different rules. Okay, you have an Ifta account if you're over 26,000 GVW. You have to have an IRP account if you're over 26,000 GVW. And different states act differently. Florida, for example, you have to mail to Tallahassee or drive it down yourself. So if you're not driving a route that goes into Tallahassee and you're a Florida-based carrier, just understand you're waiting 3 to 4 weeks to get that Ifta account back. If you're in Texas, you have to have your insurance before you can do your Texas DOT, which is another requirement to go active. But you've got to mail off to Austin for your Ifta account. You can do your IRP at the DMV when they're open, but each state is a little bit different. Indiana, you can go right on down. They'll have the IRP account paperwork right there. They'll have the Ifta account paperwork and the IRP account paperwork right there at the DMV. You can fill both of those out if you've got all the proper forms that they need to activate those 2 accounts. A lot of times they'll issue a sticker right then and there, but not every state does that. So you have to be cognizant of what state you're operating from. And the reason I say this is because if you go bind your insurance today and you have a state that's going to be 3 to 4 weeks to get you back your IFTA and all your other stuff, the only way you're going to get operational in time for you to start running loads before your first insurance payment comes is if you go buy permits for each state you're going to run through. You'll have to buy an IFTA and an IRP permit.
That's expensive.
Yeah, and you could be running, if you run 3 or 4 states, each state has to have that. They're 3 to 5 day permits, but each state might be $85, $100, and you buy 3 states, and pretty soon you've got to route yourself out and back on a load, and now you're out $200-$300 on a permit, and you weren't quite ready to run just yet. You might have a load ready for you, but if you don't have the permits, you can't go run those loads. They will stop you at the station. They will keep you from going if you don't have your IFTA sticker on your account. You're going to have to do something. They'll set you aside until you buy the permit. Okay. So there's some things that you need to know, and there's timelines that come together in all of your authority setup. And now Nick can talk about, the insurance side of things and what the typical timeline is for that.
Sure. Thanks, Bob, and happy to be on the show as usual. It's a great topic today because, and I hear a little bit of an echo. I'm not sure if somebody
Yeah,
has me on
it's
speaker.
Bob. Bob, can you mute for just a second?
Mute me,
Yeah.
but then I won't hear you. How am I echoey?
I
I
don't
don't know.
know, but you are.
It's all right. Well, I can continue as long as everyone
No,
else is okay.
I'll shut them off. I'll go to headset.
Okay. So, folks, this is really a marriage here between not only the insurance timeline, but, the compliance timeline and all the timelines that Bob was hinting at, because it all has to come together. Granted, 2-3 weeks, of course, not the end of the world, but I mean, from the insurance standpoint, a lot of folks out there are paying $20,000 a year. Prorate that, maybe $17,000 a month, give or take. So that 2 weeks is about $1,000. I mean, Penny, right? I mean, when you add it all up between the permits Bob just mentioned and insurance here and there, I mean, this is money that could really be much better used elsewhere.
Serious
So,
money.
as far as the insurance timeline, let's start with how long is it going to take to get the best quote for you, and then we'll talk about how long it actually takes to bind that quote, and from there, what happens as far as FMCSA actually authorizing you. So first of all, the timeline from the time that you engage with me, my office, Cornerstone Insurance, to the time that we can provide you with a viable quote depends on many factors. First of all, I can always get you a firm, bindable quote, no matter what, within about an hour after we have a brief Q&A. That being said, it's not always the best option. So what we do, we work with over 50 different insurance providers that specialize in trucking. What we do is we approach the marketplace. After we, speak with you for a few minutes, we're going to gather some information. We're going to have a good idea on where you're going to end up. And at that point, really, it's about 24 to 48 hours before we have the firm quotes back. That's if you're a new venture. And of course, that's what we're discussing today as far as these timelines for the most part. So after you first reach out and speak with us, or after we connect with you, you can expect that we can have firm, viable quotes for you within figure 48 hours for your timeline. Now, once that comes about, now you have something viable that you're ready to proceed with. It could be, of course, I mean, as long as you send us everything we need, we're of course going to send it in to be, it's called binding a policy. So we're going to send this in to be bound, but from there, it could take up to 24 hours for the company to recognize coverage, issue a binder and policy number. So now you're at 48 hours for us to actually get the quote, and then another possibly 24 hours before the policy number is issued, depending on the program that you choose to be with. That's 72 hours. From there, it could potentially be another 24 hours before they post the federal filing, the BMC 91X. So now we're at possibly 4 days, business days, and from there, I mean, Penny, right? Even if they're in that sweet spot of being ready to go active, it still could be 2, 3, 4 days by the time FMCSA gets around to doing that. So now, you're looking at pretty much 4, right? So, almost a week, if not maybe a hair more than a week. So, when it comes to it's that kind of like 14 to 20 days spot, right, Penny? I mean, where they can start to really actively, not just seek coverage, because we want to seek coverage, right, as soon as it makes sense, right? You want to have the quotes lined up. Some quotes are going to take longer than others. So seeking coverage is one thing. We encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. But as far as getting ready to actually bind yourself a policy, keep in mind, by the time you get everything into us and by the time we request a binder, that's a couple of business days, possibly. Sometimes it's right away, same day, in a lot of cases. But just so you know, could be as much as a couple of days until the federal filing gets posted. And from there, Penny just told you, all 4 days until you go active or become authorized. So, mix in a couple of business days and weekends here and there. Just keep that in mind when you figure your timelines. Could be almost a week. So it's an ever changing timeline from a couple of angles. So keep that in mind from the insurance side as you're keeping the authority piece in mind as well and trying to balance those.
Absolutely. Right. There's no way to really speed that up. I mean, there's so many factors that go in. We do our part and we file the VOC right away, but it is just kind of a Tetris kind of way of the way it all works. And, so it's not going to be issued really any sooner than 3 weeks. The earliest I've ever seen is 17, but that's very rare. Most of the time it's right at 22 days. And so, it's like Bob said, don't get I've had clients do this. They're like, well, I have a load tomorrow. I need to go. Like, well,
not ready. I
Yeah.
can't help you, and I can't rush it.
Yeah, and there's
That's the other
sometimes
thing.
you're just going to have a little bit of time there where it's a bummer you're paying insurance, and you've got so many agencies in the pot that you just have to keep that in mind and not be so anxious and allow for that.
Right. Take a breath, pause, and then basically plan out your timeline. Because let's bring up another example. If you're a moving company, as an example,
Oh
okay,
man, yeah.
there's a lot more to a moving company or even a towing company to get an MC authority activated because of state regulation. So if you're in California and you're a moving company, it used to be the Public Utilities Commission that you had to file with. Now it's called Bear Hefty. It is a 60-page application.
No.
Okay, and they will not authorize you
Well, I don't
until
do
you fill it.
California.
Yeah, nobody wants to do California, but just understanding we've done this for clients before, and literally it's a pain in the rear end to get through all the California stuff in order to get going. So if you filed your authority today, you talk to Nick tomorrow, you file your insurance, and you got a 60-page thing with employee backgrounds and all that other stuff to get completed in California, and you want to start moving, furniture, you're going to be sorely disappointed because you're going to be stressing out over your next insurance payment because it takes a while to get through that stuff. That isn't even counting all the FMCSA stuff or whatever, your CA number. If you're over 26,000, you have to pull an EPN, which is an employee notification, okay? And then the drug testing, all the other stuff that goes in. There's a lot of little compliance pieces. And anytime you're working with the state entities as well as the federal entities, or there's jurisdictions that kind of overlap, you want to be aware of what the state requires of you for your type of industry, for your type of trucking company.
Exactly.
New York is the worst thing for hauling refuse in New York City. Okay, if you want anything to do with trash or if you're hazmat or asbestos or anything like that, you're going to pay upwards of $8,000 to get that authority up and running in New York City. So because they have all these regulations in New York City for refuse hauling. So do your research, guys, before you start spending money is always our recommendation. I don't care if it's with us. I don't care if it's with Penny or Nick and Alex at Cornerstone. We're all going to guide you the right way. This is for your benefit. It has zero to do with, us trying to benefit ourselves. We want you to be well informed. We want you to be educated out there. Everybody in our group in Shaggy's Training Consulting, the Freedom to Learn movement, it's all about the benefit of the carrier. So with that being said, we're going to go to another piece that is exciting because I know that this insurance just came back online, and I want Nick to tell us a little bit about it for new authorities coming in and why it's advantageous with this new insurance product that you reconnected with here.
Oh, sure. Thanks for bringing that one up, Bob. And this is great too because it really allows CTCS and my office to synergize here. So it's an opportunity for us to be more connected than ever. There is a new insurance program, folks, and within a few minutes of talking with you, we're going to see if you're going to be a fit there. This is great, for folks in challenging states like Florida or Georgia or New Jersey or things like that. But moreover, for anyone out there who, it does happen, right? This is trucking, accidents happen, and a lot of you folks have, an accident on your license. You don't necessarily have an at fault or, excuse me, not at fault paperwork or police report. Maybe you have a couple of, violations, really minor violations, maybe a lane change that you got charged to you that, maybe you didn't feel was just. At any rate, the point is, this program is great for those of you who might have one or two features on your licenses, maybe a checkered license that, isn't the best because you're going to get the same rate as your counterpart that has a perfect CDL. This insurance company has a bit of a compliance process, which is I kind of hinted and introduced that Bob and I can synergize now more than ever. And with this compliance process, comes a lot that we're able to, integrate with CTCS, which, kind of leads me into passing it to Bob. But before I do, I just want to let you know when you connect with us and when we say, you might be a fit for this Trishura program, which is A-rated, we will definitely bring it up, especially if you might have a couple of blemishes on your CDL, and especially if you're looking to grow through owner operators from various states. So it's a very exciting program, unlimited growth for those of you out there who are looking to grow a fleet, even new ventures. And like I said, A-rated, of course. And then I know Bob's got some exciting things on the horizon too. Did you want to get into that, Bob, or not today?
If I can, I'm going to be posting a video a little bit later here with it.
Okay.
we've got a program developed now that's going to integrate, just to give a little teaser on it. It's going to be integrating all of your safety, all of your compliance, and all of your asset management. So your everything from driver boarding all the way through and through. Your asset management will include your rolling inventory, your trucks, your tractors, your trailers, all your maintenance records. So everything that you've ever done to a tractor or a trailer for repairs, which is required in any audit or required in an inspection from time to time, to show maintenance records and your receipts thereof. You have to keep track of those things. So this is an asset management tracker. It is going to be, go ahead and answer that question, Nick.
Let's see. Trying to get the question to display. Oh, does
Does
that
that work?
product work in all states? All but a few. No New York. New York's quite a challenging state for commercial trucking. You may or may not know that. There's only a handful of markets that right here in New York we do work with them. Is there a state you're curious about? I'd be happy to answer. But yes, most states. I think it's about 44 to 45 states that they are writing, and so the odds are strong, 90% that it's going to be yes, that it will be your state.
So
Yeah.
going back to our product there and what we're going to be bringing and introducing to all of our management systems and management clients and any new client coming on board. Basically, you're going to be able to board your driver, get your drug and alcohol done electronically, get your driver files filled out, pull your PSP reports, criminal backgrounds if you wish. Everything's going to be an HR. It's an HR product. So basically, any violations your drivers get, any CSA score, incidents or anything like that that affects your CSA score are all logged into the system and can be attached to each driver with those violations. So driver management basically becomes an at your fingertips type of a situation. Makes driver safety and safety management quite a bit easier for you carriers that want to do it yourselves. Obviously, we're still available to monitor, manage hours of service and DVIR checks and all of that, if that's what you choose. But we're going to be putting some of this back into a position where it's all automated, and you guys can kind of control your own destiny here as far as safety and compliance go. So it makes it a lot easier. Plus, it makes the electronic custody control forms and everything, and all your e-validates and your e-signatures all legal. So we can put in safety courses and certificates and things like that. So it's going to be quite a robust system. So we'll be adding some library to it to where you guys can have your drivers go through safety courses, corrective actions, things like that. And we'll be monitoring all of that and setting that up to you as needed.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Bob just wanted to hint with a teaser, but we're all excited about that, Bob, and everyone in this group should be excited too. So thanks for that.
No problem. So I do want to talk about, go back to you, Nick. Okay.
Sure. Mhm.
And we're going to talk again, and I'm not really, this sounds like a weird presentation because we're going back and forth here talking about our exciting stuff. But my experience has been with that new product is that you found it to be a lot more competitive. So when I board drivers, when I get a new entrant or we get anybody coming to us for compliance advice, anything like that, obviously we're sending them over to Cornerstone. But the one thing that I've had go on is, some of these guys just aren't getting very competitive quotes. It could be credit. It could be, I know we're just talking about new entrants here. It could be
Of course.
credit. It could be a CDL problem. I mean, there's obviously those are the two primaries as my understanding goes. And then they're not thinking ahead in building their business. Now, obviously, if they're taking Shaggy's training courses and we're pushing and promoting, Louisiana sucks. So that's where I think Dan's, so
It's okay.
is it good in Louisiana? It's good. All right. Got that question answered. So at the end of the day, if they're taking Shaggy's course, they're learning how to build a business model over the next 2 years, open up a brokerage, diversify their income, add trucks and trailers, trucks and or trailers or owner operators to their system. There are limitations on new carriers. I've seen people that have called me, they've gotten canceled by their insurance or threatened to be canceled because they're growing too fast. What's the dynamic here, and who are the providers, the underwriters that a new authority can work with if they really want to get in here and grow?
That's a great question, and I'll take the time to dissect the question just a bit so everyone understands. Because of course we're an insurance agency, right? So for all you new entrants, you're going to be purchasing insurance. You're going to be getting insurance coverage from an insurance company. We've all heard of Progressive and Travelers and Geico. These are insurance companies, folks, right? And then we have many insurance agencies like myself. Now, Cornerstone, we specialize in trucking. So we've taken the time to curate the relationships with the trucking insurance companies. So that being said, that's why earlier I mentioned we have, over 50 of these trucking specialized companies. To hone down a little bit for you new entrants that say are looking to grow, we have a number of rated carriers that are going to be able to accommodate that growth. There are a lot of insurance companies that are okay with new ventures and new entrants. A lot of times, folks will come to me and say, "Oh, I was told there's only Progressive and National Indemnity," or "I was told that there's only Canal and National Indemnity." But the fact is, depending on your state and operation, and the fact is the majority of our carriers are tractor trailer operations, but of course we have a blend of whether it be box trucks and little expediter vans and things like that, and of course towing and household good moving like Bob mentioned. Now into these niche markets like household good moving, now you have a whole nother slew of other markets like Stonewood, for example, that's going to be able to write something like that, and of course Progressive. But to stay with the majority of our audience, which is of course over the road for hire tractor trailer trucking, there is far more than just Progressive and National Indemnity. The Trisura program, again, A-rated, that I hinted at before, not only do they accommodate new ventures, but the unlimited growth. We have programs with Northland, A++ rated, admitted. This is a Travelers program. Like I said, everyone's heard of Travelers, so Northland is Travelers. And the guidelines of these companies are very state-by-state specific. So you might wonder why your neighbor got a Northland policy, but you didn't. A lot of these policies write off not only credit and a CDL, but they give you what they call a driver score. So they're kind of looking into your background a little bit. How long ago did this happen and that happen, and they want to see that you have not only a clean license but a license for long enough. That CDL, of course, the golden time is 2 years. So a lot of carriers are going to want that 2 year mark. For anyone out there with less than 2 years CDL, Progressive is going to be a player for a lot of you. However, we have other programs with other companies that are going to accommodate not only military experience, but
Uh-oh.
Whoa, he froze.
similar equipment for 2 or more years. So if you come to us and you're operating um, a dually, and you have experience driving those dualies, for 2 or more years, you don't necessarily need that CDL. Or if you come to us and you have 5 years from the military as a motor carrier operator, and that DD 214 that you're able to provide to us, and even though you have a freshly minted US CDL for 6 months, there are ways for us to work with you on that, with not only one but multiple carriers. So with that being said, Bob, it's a great question, because the point I'm trying to make here is, regardless of what situation you're in, my job is to kind of dissect that and go over with you where we can best assist you, because it's about much more than just the price. Of course, we want a great price, but we want not only the right coverage for you, but the right program that's going to allow you to do what you're trying to do.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah. So how do you know when someone comes to you? I know I've sent like 3 or 4 people to you today. How do you know which program works for certain people? If you've got 50 to choose from, that's a lot. How do you hone that in?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because I can't hear Penny very well at all.
How do you hone that in to find the
Hone that
product?
in
Yeah.
to
Oh,
the right
oh,
product.
okay. So, okay, for example, it all has to do with, first of all, where are you? Where are
Okay.
you, right? Because if you're in Georgia, Northland won't write you unless you have 6 years in business. Crum and Forster won't write you unless you have 3. So first of all, where are you?
So you
Where are
start.
you? And then we look at how long you've had that CDL. Is it clean? Is it not clean? Where's going to be a competitive fit for you as far as the criteria of your CDL and those credentials that you have. And, basically just through experience, we've probably quoted, into the thousands of trucking insurance companies, because this is what we do day in and day out. So over time, you start to see the territories and the rates and the certain criteria that boil down. And I know we're talking, timeline today, but it all comes into play, because I know everyone has that question in the back of their mind. Yes, I know I have to get the insurance. Okay, we tell you we need about 48 hours or so to get you that quote, but everyone's always got that burning question of what
Yeah.
is it going to cost me? How many agents do I have to send my
Talk to.
information to? Exactly, because of course, me, I kick the tires on everything myself as well, because
Mm.
I want to make sure that it's done right, and I want to make sure that the guy around the corner doesn't have a deal for 20% less if I'm getting the same product. So I understand it, I really do.
Mm.
But I will say that we work with the admitted and non-admitted carriers that will write new ventures. And
Yeah.
beyond that, you have to be just careful that you're not blasting your information out to every broker that calls you, because you might have somebody, it's their first week, first month on the job, making cold calls, for example, and they might not exactly know how to present the risks to an underwriter. Maybe they have to say what you're doing about a trailer, right? Let's take, for example, I have to say where you're getting your trailer. So I'll say, okay, where do you plan on getting your trailer from? You tell me I plan on getting it from company A in Georgia, right? Okay, great. I tell the company you plan on getting a trailer from company A. That new broker down the block with a month in business, maybe he does. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying what
Yeah.
happens because it's true. He might say, oh, he's getting a trailer from somewhere else, right? Random place that just kind of comes to mind, or that I don't know.
Mm.
The point is, this might spook the underwriters and the companies, and they might say, hey, we see some conflicting information here. So
Yeah.
when it boils down, what I'm trying to say is, feel free to shop with whoever you feel comfortable. Just be careful that you're not sending it to everyone on the block, because you don't want to be crossing wires out there in the marketplace.
I have heard that too, and I've
Yeah.
heard that people get rejected because there's one application from one person over here, and then they change their tune to another one, and so it's just thrown out altogether. Is that what you see?
What's that, Bob? Because I don't know
So
why,
that
but
she said when you change information, because what you're basically, she's confirming what you said. In essence, I go here and I give this information, then I go there because I think maybe if I give a little different information, I'm going to get a better quote, and all of a sudden I get denied
right.
at company B or company A because of the mix up in data.
Right. And sometimes beyond that, it's not even just the carrier. It's not the carrier's fault. The carrier might give the same information. However, the agent, like myself, might not ask the question, and they might just say, oh, well, maybe they're getting it from here or there. And all of a sudden we have conflicting info. So, but yes, on both counts, we see conflicting info.
So that's a question there about Florida insurance rate. Did something change?
I was just asked about Florida insurance rates. Did something change recently? Um, if you were maybe you were just asking about them,
No, this is
Florida rates.
Marty. Yeah, Marty asking a question. She's an affiliate here.
Oh, hey, Marty. Yeah, I did see the name. I was just asked about Florida insurance rates. Did something change? I guess, Marty, what you could say is there is a brand new program. As a matter of fact, they've written 9 policies, and Alex and I have placed the first 4 or 5. So we're very involved with them. We have a good relationship with them. So what I could say is that there is a new program that we are closely involved with. We're grateful to be a part of it, and the rates are very competitive. So yes, I guess you could say that there is a new program that Cornerstone works with, well and frequently, and yes, so that is true. That is
I
true,
was
Marty.
I was hoping Penny's dad would be here to hear some of this, but because I was just going to start mentioning it in every part of our industry, you have the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Penny's dad here, I could say the name James Lamb, and and
Woo! He would.
and,
That's how to ruffle his feathers.
and we'd ruffle his feathers. Okay, and in your side of the industry, okay, what I'm really looking for is because I hear all kinds of things when I'm talking to even people I've referred to you. Okay, and I think people get this confused, but maybe there are bad agents out there or bad brokers out there. Because you all have access, if you're in trucking insurance, as my understanding is, you all have access to the same providers, same underwriters. Is that correct? Pretty much correct?
No,
No.
but it's not correct. There are absolutely agencies that can work with programs that others cannot. Absolutely. However, for the most part, I would say most. So first of all, not every insurance agency specializes in trucking. Not every
Well, that's
person you
number
get on the
one. Yeah.
well, that's number one. Um, let's start there, because you could have somebody that's calling you that their agency writes restaurants and homeowners and things like that. I mean,
GL policies. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, they and can contractors, which is great. And we do some contractors too, but they might have progressive and national indemnity, which is what, yes, in that case, yes, 95% of agents out there will have them. But if you're talking to a trucking insurance agency and a trucking insurance expert, we all kind of have 70 to 80% of the overlap. Right. So there's always going to be these nuance. And in this case, I mean, like I said, we just wrote the first five. It just came out. So obviously not every, agent in the country is writing with this company. And there are other companies out there that have been exclusive to certain agents, for many many years. There are certain programs that pretty good. I just got my renewal with Cornerstone quote out of Florida, pretty good, and looking to add myself as a driver. Okay, great. Do you guys see who that is?
That's
Yeah.
Hakan. Yeah, it's Hakan.
Oh,
His
hey,
Hako Trucking or Hako Trucking.
Heco, yeah. Alex was helping him out. Yes, that's
Yep.
right. Yeah, we that worked out great. That was a renewal that we took over. Great. So
Well,
where
my
were
point
we?
was that trucking
Yeah.
insurance, okay, if they specialize in trucking, it should almost be a level playing field with who they can use. And the reason I'm asking that, just to kind of clarify my question,
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
had people, because I've literally had people go out and bind a GL policy for the trucking company and had to correct them and say, get your money back, okay? Because they didn't know what they were doing. And this is even before I met you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've also had people go back, well, I got this quote from this guy, but this guy's much better. Now, if you've got access to the same underwriters, why would one quote come in? And I can tell you, I've got a quote. I've had people tell me I got 33,000. They come to you and they're at 18,000 or 17,000, for the year per truck. Why the big variance? Is that just a broker that didn't want to work with the guy, or is that a broker that didn't know what he was doing, or tacking on a whole bunch of crap he didn't need?
It's probably mostly just not being an expert in the space and
Okay.
not being around for long enough to know the programs. But the other end of it is there. I mean, when you're talking about 33 to 17, in that example, it's just not knowing about certain programs. I mean, it's simple as that. Because and frankly, we do have to work. We've worked for years to curate these relationships, and we sit face to face with the relationship managers, and we have to get the yes, we have to get the stamp and the nod, or else sorry, but you can't place insurance with us. I mean, so this has been a process we've worked on here in curating our relationships, and most trucking insurance agencies have walked similar paths. And like I said, 70 to 80% of the markets are similar, but there are the exclusives, which is why I said earlier I encourage you to shop however much makes you feel comfortable, because it's important to really kick the tires and really make sure every quote is an honest quote. When it comes to something from my office, the trucking is competitive enough. I don't need to be putting any extra. There's no sense in not giving you the most competitive options I can find, because what I want to do is we all want to keep you for the long term. We all want you to grow and save on the margins where you can. And in insurance, if I can go the extra mile, even if it means a 7-page application that I'm filling out for you and save you $1,000 or $2,000, I'll put the work in, because that's my job. And it's not like we're charging extra money for saving you money. We're just giving you the quote at face value, because we want your business for the long term.
Now,
Yeah.
another good example of that, and this was made aware to me. Now, again, Alex and Nick came to me about, I guess we've been working about a year now, roughly. But before this, okay, I had another couple of other insurance people, and they're always placing new authorities with Progressive. It's pretty commonplace, okay? So I would have a guy, and they say, you know, I got this $30,000 quote from Progressive, and then the next guy they talk to with the same, I say, well, Progressive is the most common. Go to the next guy, and the next guy would be $10,000 differential, and that's kind of what I'm trying to identify here. And then
Mm,
you brought in Progressive here right at the early onset of our relationship and working together in this group. That there was if I hook my ELDs up to Progressive, it was you or Alex that brought it to my attention. They can get up to, I think it was like an 18% discount. It might start at 3% and
that's
go out.
correct. That's correct, Bob.
And nobody was telling anybody about this. Okay, so they're all signing on with Progressive, and none of them had a clue about this discount. And it makes zero sense if you're trying to, secure business with these folks for the long term to not share that with them, right?
That's exactly right. Because you know what? If I call somebody up and it's my first time speaking with them, and I say, "Hey, do you have the ELD discount?" and they're scratching their head, now I got half a foot in the door already, because guess what? That broker or agent didn't tell them, or maybe they forgot, which does happen. So that's why something that we do is we're full disclosure. We're open book. Even if it's something you don't need, but I don't want you to hear it from somebody else. So we're always gonna basically, have a wide range. We're gonna speak with you about the possibilities of what you can do, why we feel that certain directions are better directions, and I know this is about timelines. Again, I don't want to turn it into just a cornerstone session, but as long as it's welcomed, it's so important that everyone knows the relationship and how this works with the group, because we all kind of fit together in a puzzle. You have Penny get you off to the right foot, then Bob kind of just has his umbrella around you for the life of your authority here, just protecting you. And
We
you're
hope.
not well, if I mean, they better, because I mean, think about the teaser that Bob just gave you, folks, because this industry is so technologically driven, and it is getting more and more. Bob mentioned the ELDs and the carriers tracking in and tapping into those. In
Yeah.
Progressive's case, they're just collecting data. They're not charging you if you're speeding or hard braking. They're just collecting data, because the person with the most data wins in insurance. They know where the traffic patterns are. That's what they want, at least right now.
Yeah.
So it's all technologically driven, and that's what kind of Bob and CTCS are going to be able to help you take your business to that level of integration. You don't have to be a tech whiz to get these benefits of the software, and similar what we're trying to do as well, and embrace the technology too. And I mean, Penny's office is great. If anyone's ever talked to her, I don't have to tell you that, but anytime you're on the phone with Penny, the experience is paramount, because she's seen it all probably
30
100
years.
times.
30.
Yeah, she's seen it all 30 times, right? In her
Yeah.
experience. So there's no stumping this group, and no one's afraid to say I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that everyone
Well,
knows
we'll find
everything.
out.
I'm just saying
Things change, but we'll do the research.
Yeah.
there's no stumping the group. I'm not saying you can't stump one of us, but you know what? We can always turn to the partner and get some advice and shed some light. And
I'll give you an
you can't.
example. I almost got stumped this week.
Ah,
You ready, Penny?
go.
Penny,
What?
I'm a carrier based out of Alaska. I need my IRPs.
Oh, Lord. That's when I say I don't do IRP.
I almost got stumped. We figured it out.
So what was
The solution is Washington. The state of Washington is closest state. Goes down and he registers his truck there, and you can run your IRPs down here and your IFTAs. You set up your whole account out of Washington.
But if you're in
Is
the
that John, Bob?
Alaska, and I mean,
What was that?
Was that John?
Yes.
Good,
Joseph.
good.
Joseph or John?
Joseph
Joseph.
Clark.
Yeah.
Joseph. Yeah.
Joseph.
So if you're in
Very
Alaska,
good.
you're just running
Very
like
good.
coupon
Happy
and
to
back.
hear he's on his way.
Yeah, a lot of these guys go to Canada and back, and that's where they stay out of, and there's no IFTA IRP or any of that, except they got to deal with their Canada. But he wants to bring owner-operators in, all 48. So now he needs to set up his authority there. And we had to do work, but when we talk about being stumped as a group, okay, kind of Penny went, oh, we went, oh, well, let us look and do the research and find out what the best solution is. Yep, and so that's what we do. We'll get on it, and I know Nick and Alex do the very same thing. When it comes to ELDs, all our partners in ELDs Fleet Shield, they'll do the same thing when they get stumped. Guys, just know that this group is for your benefit. These shows are for your benefit. Shaggy and Frank do their show. It's about government freight. It's about securing freight. It's about teaching you how to dispatch your own trucks. Everything is for your guys' benefit. Share the group, guys, because it's free info. We're happy to help, and we're happy to answer the phones and answer your questions. Timeline is how this started off, and I think we kind of got a little off track, but I really like where the direction this is going, because timeline is timeline. We're just saying, hey, don't go start your authority tomorrow and expect you're running in 2 weeks. Don't expect you're even running in 3 weeks. Do all the research, get the authority checklist from Penny, know what you have to put in place. If you need an extra guidance on setting up the company and knowing timelines, call CTCS here, and we will guide you on, hey, did you do this, did you do that, is this done? We won't do the IRPs because you can't really do them anymore on the first year. It's more of a state type of a thing. You've got to go in, show your proof of addresses. Georgia, as an example, Georgia's brought some online stuff, but Texas has not. And we had a little problem with one of our other carriers where she had a title she had to get with COVID and all this other stuff. They finally allowed it through mail. It's hard, but it's hard. And so that put a delay on her authority. So there's things that just, especially with the stuff going on, could be delayed. Okay. So make sure you understand the timelines is the crux of this conversation, but it's more so also to talk about the help that's here for you as you're opening your authority. Because if you're looking to get into trucking, if you're looking to build a business, I can tell you there's not a better trainer than Shaggy out there to give you routes, maps, how to dispatch your trucks. He's done it for decades. This isn't just a 1 or 2 year venture for this guy. He's physically been in it. He's been in the mud. He's run a company, sideways once and then corrected everything and brought it back to life. I was talking to Nick and Alex about our program because, here's the thing. If you've run an authority to the ground, we can help get you back and resurrect this authority, get you out of, conditional, get you out of a poor CSA score or a poor safety rating. It's really more of a safety rating. It's not a score per se. We can get those things moving forward, get you into a pattern of correcting behaviors, of owner operators and drivers, because this is your compliance and your safety is more about on the road performance than it is about that stupid drug pretest you're going to go take. Okay. The pretest you have to do, it's okay, let's go get compliant. The FMCSA says I have to do it. Let's get enrolled. Let's do this stuff. Make sure all that's out of the way. But what happens then? If you don't know how to run a safety department, if you don't know how to manage your trucks, if you don't know how to manage trailers or assets or keep the maintenance records or keep your IFTAs in order or any of that.
Then be a driver at that point.
Yeah, you're better off. Yeah, exactly. Right. You're better off leasing on with somebody and letting them handle all that business stuff. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how to protect your company and your assets, your personal assets from your business assets, and you don't set up correctly, it's not saying that something bad's going to happen. We're saying that, look, why not take every precaution when you start a business? Start from the ground up, build that foundation, and then get into running it correctly so it can be profitable in the long term. That's really what this is about.
I've had that conversation with several people today, wanting to get a broker authority or a carrier. And I always tell them, get your name secured first and then come to me. I don't want to have to backtrack. And, I've done that so many times where, they choose a name, they haven't registered yet. It's like, I'm going to get to that. And then we have to do a name change and backtrack. And that you don't want to backtrack anything from the very first step.
You doubled your timeline.
Yeah. And then just today I saw an agent that we work with. He's already filed the insurance and they just opened the account like 2 days ago. And so that's not smart right. Because they've already bound the insurance and they're still on that 3-week timeline. And it's just, so.
But know those state things that might vary too.
Yeah.
Like Texas and the Tex DOT, the IFTA having to be sent off to Austin, Florida going off to Tallahassee. There's a lot of states that are just like that.
Texas DOT is pretty easy to deal with.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to say it's
once you have the insurance and once you have those things, but if you don't have those things in place, they won't approve it.
Right. So, and I found that with Ohio, their, insurance agents, and Nick, you might know this too, and have experienced this, won't even put the insurance on file with the FMCSA until Ohio PUC is filed.
Yep. There's a lot of times that state gets involved. That's kind of what we're talking about. Public Utilities Commission on certain states, they require you to file with the PUC. It may not cost you a dime, but you have to get the filing done, and that could be a week-long process or 10 days or whatever it takes to get the response back. You got to remember, these are governmental buildings you're dealing with when you're doing these things, and they do not operate on our timeline. They operate on theirs.
And that's, and I know Andrea talked to Teresa about a client.
Oh, boy.
And I'm just like, I have complete faith in Teresa. I know she knows what she's doing. It's just
she's already done it.
I know. Oh, I knew that. And I told Andrea, I said, we need to stay out of it.
Well, we get customers that call and yell at you. And it's funny because I talked to him and he was perfectly nice to me. I sent him to Teresa. He's perfectly nice to her. And then we hear that he's yelling at Andrea. And we're like, what in the world? Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, it's terrible.
Like, don't be mean to girls.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not your fault. It's not our fault. It's sitting at the government waiting for somebody to press a button. So timelines, you have to understand when you're dealing with governmental, let's just name the biggest oxymoron in the history of the U.S., and that's government service. Okay? And just take that into account when we're dealing with DOT, FMCSA, state entities, U.S. Post Office, you name
I
it.
mean, and
Not,
now more than ever, we know we're at the mercy of the government. It's just the way it
oh,
is.
look, we got another want to beat somebody up.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just is what it is, guys. We're here, we press the buttons, we do all those things. It's not that we never make mistakes, because if we do, I'll be the first one to say, hey, I'm sorry. It was my mistake, my error, and we'll deal with it and appropriately.
right.
Correct it, do whatever. And we have made mistakes. I can tell you, we've got the wrong zip code on somebody's drug and alcohol, so we paid extra to do it electronically, because it was, why isn't it there yet? And then we find out it was a zip code issue. So we'll go out of our way to send you electronically and pay whatever extra fee we have to correct that. So these things do happen. U.S. Postal Service makes mistakes too, but when we can attribute it to ourselves, we're going to take accountability of it, guys. And I know Penny's the same way, Nick's the
Yeah.
same way. There's nobody in our group that won't be accountable for what we're doing and how we're doing it. So again, this is all about, carrier benefit, broker benefit. If you're a dispatch company and you're trying to learn trucking, your benefit. I talked somebody out of opening a brokerage today. Okay. Because why would you? First off, tell me about yourself. So, Nick says his experience, mine's experience, Penny's experience on how we hone things down. But mine is also an interview process, guys. If your customer's talking to me, you can ask Artie today. He was on the phone, probably sitting there expecting things to go be done in 10 minutes. It took 30 to 40 minutes just to explain and find out why this person wanted what they wanted, so I could hone down what they actually needed. Okay. A lot of questions get asked by me. I'm sure Nick is very much the same way when he's honing down what's going to be the best fit for insurances. Alex the same way. There's not just a one size fits all in this industry, guys.
No, not
Yeah,
ever.
everything's a little different. Okay. So just understand that when we're asking you questions, we're not trying to just sell you something. We're trying to hone down what's going to be the best for your company.
Right. This question's from Marty.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing a name change today because he's adding another DBA on how he's operating. A lot of times they're going from one type of corporation to another to protect their assets. Absolutely.
LLCs are commonplace in this industry.
I used to have to do 14 pages to change a name in my system. Oh, in her system.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple process. We just have to have the documentation.
Yep.
But
and LLCs don't protect personal assets, and as people start to learn that, what they'll do is maybe want to go to a corp if they want to open up another authority of some sort, brokers or whatever. They may even go to like a holdings entity or holdings corporation, be an umbrella for the other companies underneath to protect more insulation, more protection.
Right.
So understand that there are people that get on the FMCSA. Out of the 260 or so that were there today, I'll bet you there's a few that put their personal name down or put down Mike Thomas Trucking, and Mike Thomas can't put down Mike Thomas Trucking. He doesn't have a state filing. He doesn't have a county filing. It just becomes Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas is perfectly exposed in any incident, and he has no protection, guys. And at the end of the day, that name needs to be changed. Okay, something needs to be done for him to make him a recognized entity, even if he's just going to drive his 18-wheeler down the road himself. He wants some form of insulation and separation. An LLC be filed tax-wise the same way as pretty much personal income, but corporations protect.
So, Nick, that's a good question for you. Can you hear me?
Not very well.
I'll ask it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious if that's something that you look at. If you see a name, like Mike Thomas Trucking, there's no LLC, you're not able to look it up. Do you make them change that with the FMCSA first?
Could you hear the whole question?
No.
Okay. So if it comes in Mike Thomas Trucking, do you make them change that with the FMCSA before quoting insurance?
Well, I certainly don't make them change their name, but I do advise them. Is this what you're doing? Is this the name of your company that we're insuring? We'd of course give any kind of disclaimers that we be aware of and privy to make. And of course, at the end of the day, folks, it's your company and this is your business, your livelihood, and your life. It actually extends to your assets, your family, and everything you've built. So we're going to do our best and really like we've been saying this whole conversation, guide you the best way we can. If you come to us with a personal name, I say, are we doing this in your personal name? Is this how you want to do it? Are you aware of how insulated or not insulated you may be with this? But of course, Penny, we wouldn't make them
Can't
do
force it.
anything.
Yeah.
But right, of course. But it's a great question, though. We always raise the flare, and we would bring it up.
Yeah. Wow.
So let's talk about corrective action and corrective measures, okay? Because again, earlier in the week, or maybe last week, we talked a little bit about this in how you deal with renewals, okay? And how people with poor safety scores, how they're hit with renewals. So if I have a poor safety rating, my insurance could go up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If I want to get the same quote or keep my insurance in the range, you have an action that you can take to benefit the carrier. Filing a correction. So, because I've run into this now, not with your carriers specifically, but with other carriers say, oh, my insurance wrote a corrective action letter. Okay. And so I'm thinking this is fairly commonplace now, where I've run into people that have poor safety scores. They've come to me either through the group or referral or whatever. And then I'm telling them about, let's take some measures to correct this stuff. So your corrective action letter, if it's not too terribly bad, it's just a small increase, is just a general, Alex called it a lip service letter. Okay. And I know you're doing the best for the carrier. So a lip service letter being, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then they get the sign off on, you've basically done your job, kept the rate similar by that lip service letter. Is that correct?
For sure. That's definitely what happens in a lot of instances. For sure.
Okay.
You mean right?
So they don't get this big increase this year, but the lip service letter took no action. So now we go to next year. Can you write another lip service letter?
Well, these
no
things can
action if it's
only
all the same.
these things right. I mean, if you're not looking, you got to think long term, folks. And when I say that, this is what happens. When you look around, people out there are doing what they feel is best in the moment. And we do understand you have to do what you have to do, and you have to do what's best for your company. But what's best for your company is the long term. What good is being in business this year if you can't get a renewal, nonetheless be in business next year. So if we're talking about corrective actions and leading into what Bob's talking about, what's the point of putting together what Bob's referring to as a lip letter here? I mean, what's the point? What's the point? If you're just doing something to decrease your rate in the short term, I mean, you got to rethink what you're doing in your strategy here, because the whole point is to embrace what this is and to go into your renewal next year and say, look, we've implemented the changes and the efforts that we said that we were going to do. Nothing really speaks louder than you saying what you're going to do. And now when we look at that renewal, the carrier can stand behind you.
Right. And now you probably could even chop them into different markets they wouldn't have been available for the previous year.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and that's all part of Shaggy's training is, looking at your 2-year plan. What is your 2-year plan? If it's only a 6-month plan, you don't need to be in this business, really.
Yeah, not trying to kick you out, but that's pretty blunt and to the point. And Penny's told me she's not empathetic when it comes to business at all.
Yeah.
So we'll just chalk that up to lack of empathy for business people. So if you're going to be a business person, you better act like one around Penny. I'm telling you.
That's right.
And that makes perfect sense. She's blunt and to the point. And I've told people, hey, you're better to lease on with somebody than you are to run your own business if you don't have a handle on all of this back end stuff that you've got to really manage. Yeah. So, I know this kind of leads back to me, but this allows you, our little system that we're putting together is going to allow you to manage a good majority of the core of what we're talking about today. You're going to have tools in your hand that you won't have to doubt or wonder, hey, am I going to pass my new intern audit? Am I going to, what's going to happen when my insurance comes up for renewal? What's going to happen? What are my drivers doing on the road? Are they good? Oh, wait, I had a violation. Nobody told me about it. Okay. These tools are going to be in your benefit to keep everything in order. So when it comes up for renewal with Nick and Alex, that you're getting the best possible options available to you because your safety rating's good, because you have a good handle on your drivers, because you have the right programming in your ELD, and we help you to kind of guide you to set that up the right way so you're getting proper notifications, so you're keeping on top of those potential violations that are over the road. Okay, your alerts. Okay. knowing when to do my UCR, knowing when to do my 2290, knowing when to file my IFTAs, and when everything is due timeline wise, and knowing when my driver's CDL expires.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gosh, what happens when it expires and he didn't tell you and he gets pulled over in an inspection and the CDL's expired and he forgot? Okay, what about DOT physical cards and medicals? All those things, having those tools in your hands, I think are going to be hugely beneficial to everybody in this group that wants to participate.
And know that the regulations
more than
are
more than beneficial, Bob. And this group,
Sorry.
we have there's no secret. We have a ton of new entrants. I mean, a lot of people in this group are new entrants. And folks, I don't know why you started your business. Everyone's got their why, but at the end of the day, some part of it has got to be to control your destiny, to control your life. And that just lends itself into what Bob is talking about here, because what good is it if you have your own company, but you have no control? You could lay your head down on the pillow at night. There's nothing better than, even though we put in the extra hours, not just us, everyone in this group, we put in the extra work to make sure that, everything is gridlock. Everything is solid, and everything is bulletproof. Everything that we're doing, we're trying to make it as bulletproof as possible, airtight, whatever you want to say. That's what helps me go to sleep at night. Going the extra mile, and this is my business. At the end of the day, this is my livelihood. And we're not going anywhere. And Bob and Penny, they're not going anywhere. And the reason we're not going anywhere is because we put the extra work in, to just make sure everything is, like I said, airtight, bulletproof, whatever you want to call it. But,
Exactly.
we know that we're doing our absolute best. Can you say that? If you can't, it's time to talk with CTCS about getting this corrective action plan in order. Because until you're doing everything you can do, you're really not running your business the best way you can be. So what else are you doing? I really don't know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what I was saying before is these regulations are minimum requirements. So you can certainly, it's a good idea to exceed them. I had a conversation with an old client today, and so he was like, Penny, should I pull an MVR every month? He's just one of those of kind of an overachiever. And I said, well, I don't think every month, it's only required every year. But I said, why don't you bump it up to every 6 months if you have an issue and that makes you feel better, just to stay on, because he had an issue with the driver.
Well, let's take that MVR for a minute, guys. Okay, and I don't mean to cut you off, but let's take that particular file.
Right.
A driver file is meant to be a living file. Okay, Alex, if I'm a CDL driver and I go out in my personal vehicle and I get a speeding ticket, does it potentially affect what you're going to quote me on my insurance next year, or
Yes,
when that shows up? Okay.
Yes.
So a driver file was created about 11 years ago, maybe 12 even. It became a regulation that they started requiring to be built out. And it was meant to be a living file for all your violations. Okay, anything that's going on, any incident, it's meant to be signed off on by a driver representative for the company. So
Right.
if I get a speeding ticket in my car, I'm supposed to report to Penny, who's my boss, and say, hey, Penny, I got a speeding ticket. And you're supposed to counsel me, Penny. And it's supposed to be signed off on in that driver file as a live document. Okay.
Right.
And it's supposed to be updated. So if he has a problem with the driver and he's feeling like that driver's out there being shady in his own personal vehicle, he's street racing and stuff like that, that's going to cause problems, yeah, he probably should pull more often an MVR.
Right. Right.
But, because you need to correct that driver before he does that in your truck.
Right.
And now it's on your
You made the right.
And oftentimes, we'll run into situations where we have to have a driver get special approval if if their license has too many things happening with it. And in those cases, we have to pull an MVR every quarter to send it into the company because the company themselves wants to see that beyond the driver file. So, what Bob is talking about, if you have your driver files on point, you can come to whether it be your renewal or your audit or whatever. Again, just prepared, because you are in control of your business and your destiny. I mean, there's really there's no substitute for it.
As the owner of your company, you want zero surprises. How's that?
Correct.
Yeah.
As little as possible. I'll say we can't completely dodge them.
You don't want somebody yelling at your daughter over the phone.
Yeah.
I got a feeling he's going to get his butt kicked if he ever came into the office. And he's that mother, don't you mess with my kids.
Yeah, that's right. I've fired people for that.
Don't doubt it one bit.
Not very many, I'll say that.
No, but I agree with you. Don't mess with my kids. Don't mess with your kids. I mean, Teresa's very much the same way. Don't yell and mess up with my kids. Heck, I can hardly yell at my kids.
Mine are all out of the house.
Yeah, well, I got 16-year-olds, soon to be 16s, but twins. Yay. So what more can we top this off with other than, guys, we're here for you. Let's top it off with a mention of all of our partners, okay? Because I like to mention them in our show so people know who to talk to and, ask about it in case they're not using them. So we've got Kevin over at Rig Nation. Obviously, we have Cornerstone, CTCS, and Evil Sizer for new authorities, Cornerstone for insurance, CTCS for safety management, okay, and compliance items. We've got Rig Nation. We got Shaggy's training and consulting for anybody that wants to know how to run a trucking company, build a 2-year plan, be a brokerage, be a dispatcher. Well, be a dispatch for your own company. That's really what his focus is. He's not out there trying to train independent dispatchers, but if that's your goal, the training is awesome. Okay. Learn how to map and route your trucks. We got G3 Trucking, which is Frank Griffin. They do everything. They do everything from government freight to they're a broker, they're a trucking company. Well, don't forget to check out Trucker G. Okay. He has a 10,000 person following on Facebook. That man has been doing this 29 years. He was on a show a couple weeks ago. He didn't get to talk too much. I like to mention him because he's just a good, positive influence in the trucking industry. Guys, there's enough negativity out there. We don't need to compound it.
Right.
So let's just, kind of keep this positive flow going. Anybody else we want to mention? 1, 2, 3 load boards. Optify Tom. Yeah. Tom's awesome. Factoring.
Fleet Shield.
Rihanna. Okay.
Yeah, Rihanna.
So make sure if you're seeing this video, and I want everybody that's in this, little video, let's copy the link and share it into the groups you're in if you can. Okay, because again, this will help with the recruiting for our Freedom to Learn movement. It should give good information to those people in other groups, even if they don't come into our group. But this is about trucking, guys. When we do Trucking Matters, we want it to be the best info we can give out there in the industry from people that are dealing with this on a daily basis, live from just different aspects of the business. Anybody I missed, Nick, there in the partner group there?
I think you hit most of them. I have my list here.
I know. I was looking at.
You got Michael, right? Well, you mentioned Fleet Shield before. I know you.
Right.
I know you mentioned that.
So they'll give you your ELDs if you need them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit everyone.
Okay, so this is pretty much all about working with people that'll provide the service that'll answer your questions. You don't have to pay us $1 to get a question answered. Okay,
Exactly.
We'll tell you honest truth on what it takes for what you're asking. You'll get an honest quote from Nick. You'll get an honest quote from Penni on starting your authority. Nick on insurance. You're going to get an honest quote on safety and compliance from us here at CTCS and everybody else in this partners group. They've all been vetted. You've got an affiliate card here through Justin that'll get you 20 cents off or up to 20 cents off per gallon at select stations, which is a very good fuel discount off the cash price. So just, make sure you're talking to people, about these other affiliates because those partners in our system, they've all been vetted. They all treat their customers properly. And there isn't one you're going to have a bad experience with. I mean, personalities don't always mix, but everybody's going to, do their best to service your account.
Right. I agree.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to sign off.
Same. I don't know.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks for being here. Nick, I appreciate you. Thanks again, Penni.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, can you share
everyone.
this off, Penni? Because that's the one thing I can't seem to do. I can never seem to get this video to replay.
I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, guys.